If you like saving money or just hate the way that LLMs talk, this one might be for you. It's a new trending skill called Caveman, and it promises to cut up to 75% of output tokens while keeping full technical accuracy, all thanks to the wise words of Kevin.
Why waste time? Say lot word when few word do trick.
This works on Claude, Codex, and wherever, and it takes your outputs from filler word, too long not reading responses, to a nice TLDR with the same technical accuracy, and it's even customizable and has extras like Wenyan mode, terse commits, one-line code reviews, and an input compression tool. It may seem a little crazy at first, but there's even some science behind this, so let's jump in and take a look. So I was testing this out in Claude Code earlier with a demo next.js app I have that actually has a fake authentication system, and I was simply asking, can you explain how auth is implemented in this app? Now this is normal Claude Code without the skill installed. You see right away it gets into sort of filler words saying this is a simulated authentication system. We have our M-, it says no backend, no passwords, no real security. It exists to demonstrate better stack RUM user tracking. After this it then goes on to explain the core files and how it works, and everything's just sort of in readable English. If we then ask the same question but this time use the Caveman skill, you can see it just gets straight to the point and is a lot more concise. The first sentence is demo only, client-side auth, no real security, built for better stack RUM tracking demos. It doesn't have any of those filler words, the M dashes or anything like that. It doesn't need to make a proper sentence. It can just tell you the technical information straight away. And the same thing goes for the how it works section, the flow, and the integration points. You can see here, instead of saying how this works sort of in a plain English sentence, just says app load, and then has an error to check local storage for the saved user. So it's just way more concise, and that's what I care about, to be honest. I don't really care about it being in plain English. I just wanted the technical information from it. That conciseness is actually the main reason that I like this skill, but its other selling point is that this means it should reduce output tokens, and therefore theoretically you can get more out of your Claude Code subscription, or even save money on your API tokens. But I do think there's a small catch here. This is the results of a comparison test I was running earlier where I was comparing the baseline Claude Code response versus a terse one, which is where I literally say to Claude Code, be concise, versus using our Caveman skill. This was on 10 prompts, and it's things as simple as how does git rebase differ from a git merge? And you can see the results are very positive. When we use the Caveman skill versus the baseline, we actually have a 45% reduction in our output tokens and a 39% one against just saying be concise to Claude Code. That's obviously going to relate to cost as well. There's going to be a 45% saving there in the output tokens. So the baseline cost around 8 cents for them, and Caveman costs around 4 cents. So everything looks quite good initially. Where things start to get a little more interesting though is when we factor in the cost of input tokens. Obviously now that we're using the Caveman skill, we're loading in a markdown file which has a lot more text in it than our single sentence prompts. So for the baseline where we're just sending that sentence, it's fractions of a cent, but when we use our skill, you can see it's now around 4 cents. If we then combine our input and output token costs, you can see that on average, Caveman is actually 10% more expensive than the baseline, because the savings that we made on those output tokens have been lost to our input tokens. But this doesn't mean it's a loss for Caveman. That's because this is only true in very specific scenarios. It's only true if we're sending a single small prompt and we're not asking any follow-up questions. If you start to ask follow-up questions, you can hit the prompt cache pricing, and when we do that, you can see things swing back in favor of Caveman. We're actually making a 39% cost saving. You can see I went down a bit of a rabbit hole there, but it does prove there is some logic to using Caveman. And that's before we've even factored in another possible advantage, which is that a study this year showed that constraining large models to brief responses improved accuracy by 26% on certain benchmarks. So maybe Kevin was the smart one after all, and you'd be smart for subscribing. You can try out this skill for yourself by using the Vercel skill package and running a command like this, and in here we can also see what it's asking the agent to do. We have some rules like drop articles like A, an, and E, drop any filler words, drop pleasantries, drop hedging. Then we also have use short synonyms, so use big instead of extensive, and say fix instead of implement a solution for. And we also have what we want to keep, which is technical terms, code blocks, and errors. After this, we then have the pattern of how it should be structured. So we should have a thing, an action, a reason, and then a next step. So nice and concise. There's even intensity modes in here to change just how Caveman it gets. You can see it ranges all the way from light up to ultra. I was using full since that is the default. You can see in ultra, it abbreviates everything. It strips conjunctions. It uses arrows for causality, and it uses one word when one word enough. There's also a Wenyan mode, which is using classical Chinese characters because they're actually the most token efficient. Unfortunately, I can't read them, so it's not much use to me. That's not even all that Caveman has to offer. There's actually a few more skills for specific scenarios. We have Caveman commit to write terse and exact messages in a conventional commits format. We have Caveman review to write code review comments that are one concise line per finding. And we also have a compressed skill to take your natural language files and Cavemanify them so you can reuse them with slightly less input tokens. Let me know in the comments if you like the sound of any of these, and while you're down there, subscribe, and as always, see you in the next one.